I sit at the heavy oak dining table, scarred and polished by time, the same table that has carried the weight of 3 decades of Carter family dinners, celebrations, and endless arguments. The table where my grandfather once taught me to play checkers on rainy afternoons, moving the black and red pieces with steady patience. The table where, as a child, I thought I belonged, where laughter used to echo in this house like a promise. Now as I look around, I'm surrounded by 3 faces that share my blood but not my trust. My mother, Vivian, my father, Douglas, and my brother, Grant. Juliet, honey, thank you for coming. Mom's voice drips with that sugary sweetness she always reserves for manipulation, a syrupy tone that never means what it pretends. At 62, her once golden hair has begun to surrender to silver at the temples, but her cunning hasn't aged a single day. I let my eyes wander across the dining room of my childhood home in Garner, North Carolina. The wallpaper curls away near the ceiling, tired from years of summer's heat. The hardwood floors, once gleaming, are dull and scuffed from decades of footsteps. Along the walls, family photographs stare back at me. Grandpa on his fishing trips, my high school graduation, Grant's wedding day, all framed and neatly arranged. My face fades from those frames after the age of 19, like I was edited out of the Carter family history. What's this about? I ask, though deep down I already know. The foreclosure notice that landed in my inbox last week through a friend at the bank told me everything I needed. Dad clears his throat, a relic of authority still hanging in his voice. At 65, his broad shoulders are stooped, his once booming presence diminished. Still he tries to command the room. We've hit a rough patch. Financially speaking. Again. The word slips sharp from my mouth before I can stop it. Grant shoots me a look, his eyes narrowed in warning. Always the peacemaker when it benefits him. At 36, his body has softened, cushioned by comfort, by privilege, by years of being the favored son. Mom slides a calculator across the table as though it were an offering. Its glowing display shows a number that would cripple most people. $180,000. That's what we need, she says softly, her manicured fingers trembling just enough to look convincing. To save the house. I stare at the number. Feel nothing. The shock they expect doesn't come. Dad begins a speech carefully rehearsed. This house has been in our family for generations. Your grandfather would want us to keep it. Juliet, it's about family duty. Family duty, I echo, my voice tasting of bitterness. Grant leans in, his expression molded into concern like clay shaped for display. We wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate, Jules. You know that. I do know. They only ever call when they want something, usually money. What about the equity loan you took out last year? I ask flatly. Mom and Dad exchange a quick glance, the kind they've shared my whole life when caught in a lie. Business investments, Dad mutters. Like the business investment that devoured my inheritance? The question hangs heavy, toxic in the air. Dad's jaw tightens. That was 15 years ago. Are you really still? $120,000. I cut him off, my voice steady. My college fund. My future. That business would have set us up for life if what, Dad? If the market hadn't shifted? If your partner hadn't betrayed you? If you'd actually known what you were doing? The calmness in my tone unsettles him more than anger ever could. Mom's hand flutters toward her eyes, dabbing at tears that aren't really there. We've always supported you, Juliet, she whimpers. When you needed us. When I needed you. I laugh softly. Was it when I was working 3 jobs just to scrape through school? When I graduated with honors and none of you showed up? When exactly, Mom? You're nothing but a freeloader who abandoned this family. Dad's fist slams the table. The calculator jumps, the sound slicing through the room. Silence follows. Grant stares at his hands. Mom looks away. I smile. Just a small, quiet smile. Enough to confuse them. I'm not your item. Juliet Marie Carter. Mom's voice rises in sharp indignation, her practiced theatrics unraveling into genuine fear. This time her tears spill for real, no longer controlled but frantic. She's realized I'm not writing a check. You don't understand what this means, she whispers. We'll lose everything. I close my eyes. And suddenly I'm 19 again. Standing at my grandfather's funeral, clutching his photograph as the attorney read the will aloud. To my granddaughter Juliet, I leave $120,000 for her education and her future security. My path had been laid out. a technical university, a computer science degree, a future built on intellect instead of appearance in a town that worshipped beauty more than brains. But that night, Dad had cornered me at this very table. The family business is struggling, just a temporary setback. We had capital to invest. 3 days later, I signed away my inheritance, hands trembling with loyalty. Within 18 months, the money was gone along with my dreams of college. That same week, Dad declared bankruptcy. Grant rolled into the driveway in a brand new truck. I open my eyes, back in the present. The same 3 faces stare at me now, waiting for me to rescue them. I rise slowly, taller than I've ever felt in this room. I set my water glass gently on a coaster, a quiet courtesy for a house that never sheltered me but will soon, in ways they can't imagine, belong to me. I've made my decision. Julie, please. Mom's hand reaches out, but I step away. Good night. As I walk to the door, Grant whispers hoarsely to Dad. What are we going to do now? The soft click of the door closing feels more final than any slam. Outside, the humid North Carolina air carries the sweet scent of magnolias. For the first time, I let myself smile fully. They have no idea what's coming. Later that night, my apartment in Raleigh becomes a war room. My kitchen counter vanishes beneath years of documents, bank statements, investment ledgers, and receipts. 15 years of meticulous record-keeping, evidence of every betrayal preserved in manila folders. One folder sits heaviest, inheritance. Inside, only 3 papers: the will, the check receipt, the business contract I'd signed at 19. $120,000. My future. My mistake. The ledgers tell the story in brutal honesty. My father burned through it all. Business dinners at steak houses. Office equipment. A company car that became his personal ride. Consultants who delivered nothing but invoices. The numbers don't reveal the Ford F-150 that appeared in the driveway the same week I was eating ramen and working double shifts. The truck with custom rims and a premium sound system while I was collapsing into a futon in a humid studio above a laundromat. Rent, $450. My life, 3 jobs. Sleep, 4 hours a night. I'd call home sometimes. During finals week, I dialed once. Mom answered. Laughter and clinking glasses carried through the line from a backyard party. Dad's booming voice in the background telling stories over steaks. That was my family. And that was when I learned to stop calling. Grant's new girlfriend let out a shrill squeal of laughter at one of his recycled jokes. We're celebrating your father's new business contact, Mom explained, her voice muffled and far away over the line, like she was already half distracted. Is everything okay, Juliet? Do you need something? She asked with practiced sweetness. What I needed was sleep. Support. Recognition that while they toasted Dad's new big opportunity with steaks and wine, I was barely holding myself together. I was drowning and they were too busy clinking glasses to notice. No, I had answered back then. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. Not even close. I was becoming someone harder, someone who had learned the Carter brand of family loyalty only traveled in one direction. Toward them. Never toward me. Dad was the dreamer. The visionary. The man who could talk circles around a room until everyone believed him. His greatest weapon had never been money or power but charm. His eyes always lit up when he talked about the next big thing, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper when discussing our family business. Always ours when he needed funding. Always his when it came to decisions. Grant learned from the best. My brother, who never kept a job longer than 6 months but always had cash for casino trips in Atlantic City. Who only called when his credit cards maxed out. Who mocked my education as playing with computers, while he pursued real business ventures that evaporated into nothing every single time. And Mom with her eternal allegiance. Her well-timed tears. Her favorite refrain, he's doing his best, Juliet. As though good intentions could erase damage. As though Dad's dreams justified the funeral pyre of my future. I might have broken entirely if not for Professor Williams. He noticed my bloodshot eyes one afternoon in advanced statistics. You have talent, he told me gently after class. But talent means nothing if you burn yourself out. He arranged a programming internship that paid more than all 3 of my jobs combined. That single act cracked open a door I thought had slammed shut forever. Then came Martha Chin at Tristat Technologies. My next lifeline. She slid a steaming mug of coffee across her desk during my interview. "I worked my way through school too," she said. "Some of us have to climb the hard way." She built me a schedule that worked around my remaining classes. She believed in effort, not excuses. And then Naomi Briggs, the attorney who would become a quiet anchor in my life. She took my case when a competitor tried stealing my algorithm. "You understand documentation," she said, impressed by the evidence I had prepared. "Most people can't prove what happened to them. But you can." Piece by piece I built a scaffold for myself. Graduation day was cloudless, golden. I sat among hundreds of students in rented caps and gowns, strangers who had become my cohort. The dean's voice echoed in the auditorium. "Juliet Carter, summa cum laude." I rose, walked across the stage and searched for faces I knew. 4 seats I had reserved in the audience sat empty. Mom had promised. We wouldn't miss it, she'd said only a week earlier. Dad had sworn he was proud. But when my name was called, no one stood. No one clapped. The ceremony ended. Families reunited in the lobby with bouquets, balloons, proud tears. I stood with a diploma case in hand, a hollow smile on my lips and no one waiting for me. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Grant's car broke down. So sorry. Dinner next week." There was no dinner. There was never dinner. 3 days later, TriStat offered me a permanent position. Salary, benefits, dignity. Standing in my new office, unpacking my single box of belongings, I placed my grandfather's photo on the desk. In the locked drawer, I slid the old business agreement with my father, the one that had stolen my inheritance. "I will never be vulnerable to them again," I whispered to the empty room. "Not financially. Not emotionally. Never again." I didn't know then that 15 years later, I would be planning to take the very house where they had betrayed me. But I knew something fundamental had shifted. I was no longer the daughter who could be sacrificed for their comfort. I was becoming the woman who would one day hold the deed to their downfall. 2 days later, the Raleigh skyline stretched like a painting beyond the window of my corner office. Not the largest at Meridian Data Systems, but mine through merit, not manipulation. 6 years of climbing, junior analyst to department head. Every promotion earned, every step uphill on my own strength. On the wall hung a framed certificate. Employee of the Year 2 years running. Its brass plate caught the morning light and spilled it across my desk. A desk that was neat, ordered, mine. Numbers filled my morning. Numbers that made sense, that were accountable, that didn't vanish into family emergencies. "Your 10 o'clock is here," said Maya, my assistant, poking her head through the door. I closed the investment portfolio I'd been reviewing between sips of coffee. Nothing extravagant inside. Just conservative index funds. A modest IRA. An emergency fund that had taken me 3 years to build. Financial stability was oxygen after years of suffocation. At lunch, my colleagues spilled into the bistro across the street. I stayed behind, savoring the quiet while I updated my savings spreadsheet. Each number told the story of recovery. Slow, deliberate, unshakably mine. At 2:17 p.m. my phone buzzed. "Mother." I let it ring out as I had for months. But the timing needled me. Deliberate. Calculated. Against my better judgment, I played the voicemail. "Juliet, honey." Her voice trembled in practiced distress. "Your father. His heart. The doctor says the stress is worsening everything." A pause long enough to sting. The bank called again about the house. "We're behind $280,000 now with all the fees. If only we had more support." The familiar weight of obligation pressed against my chest. $280,000. Almost the exact total of my portfolio and savings. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, county records glowing across my laptop screen. Truth replaced her script. 5 equity loans, 3 refinances. Over a decade of bleeding the family home, my grandfather's home, dry like an A-team. "Computer or tablet tonight, Mrs. Abernathy?" My neighbor's voice floated across the hall as I gathered my mail. "Research," I replied, unlocking my door. "Family matters." Inside, I dialed the number I had been saving for a moment like this. "Briggs Legal Services," answered a brisk voice. "Naomi, it's Juliet Carter. I need your counsel. Urgently." By Wednesday, I sat across from Naomi in her sleek downtown office. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the courthouse where, 15 years ago, she had argued a case for a distant cousin. Her card had never left my wallet. Naomi tapped her tablet, scanning the files. The situation is straightforward. Foreclosure proceedings begin next month. The bank will auction the house unless the balance is paid. And if someone purchases it? I asked, though I already knew. Your parents would face eviction within 30 days. The leather chair creaked as I shifted. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city. What if I wanted to buy it? Naomi raised her brows, removing her glasses. That's an interesting approach. May I ask why? I drew a slow breath. For once, I answered without artifice. Because that house holds the only good memories I have left. And because they took everything from me inside those walls. This time I'm taking something back. My grandfather built the study with his own 2 hands, each plank and nail a testament to his stubborn pride. The smell of varnished oak, dust and pipe smoke still lingers in my memory, woven into the fibers of the old books he lined the shelves with. That room wasn't just a study, it was a battlefield where I learned discipline. It was where he taught me to play chess, to value patience and strategy over rash emotion. Now sitting across from Naomi, that same memory steadies me. I meet her gaze directly, a silent promise pressing against my ribs. I won't let them gamble it all away, I say. My voice is sharper than intended, but it holds. Naomi nods as if she can see the ghosts of history standing between us. We can arrange a private purchase before the auction. Your identity will remain protected until closing. They'd never sell to me outright. I allow a bitter laugh. But if the bank forces their hand. She reopens her tablet, tapping with brisk efficiency. Then they won't have a choice. Let's discuss your finances. 2 days later, I find myself in a stark office at Triangle Mortgage Associates, seated across from Thomas Wilson. His tie is navy blue, knotted too tightly, his expression the polished neutrality of a man who reviews people's lives as line items on spreadsheets. He scans my credit score, my pay stubs, my bank balances, his pen scratching faintly against paper. You qualify for the full amount, he finally says, plus the 25% down payment. He slides the pre-approval letter across the desk as though passing me a key to another life. The interest rate is competitive, given the market. My hand is steady as I sign my name, though the weight of the pen feels heavier than usual. Each signature is another step toward reclaiming not only what was taken from me, but what they told me I never deserved. Dignity. Congratulations, Thomas says with a perfunctory smile. You're on your way to becoming a homeowner. The words echo strangely, almost comical. I've walked through that house thousands of times, memorized every creak in the floorboards, every draft through its old windows. And yet, despite being built with my bloodline's hands, it never felt like mine. Till now. The following week, Naomi calls me while I'm at my desk reviewing quarterly data models. Her voice is brisk but warm. Everything's moving forward. The bank accepted the offer. We're scheduled to close in 20 days. That night, my phone detonates with notifications. A video, shaky but clearly orchestrated, has gone viral within our family circles and beyond. My mother, eyes carefully reddened, sits before the camera. Her voice quivers with a rehearsed fragility. Our daughter has abandoned us, she says, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. After all we sacrificed for her education, she's left us in our hour of need. The irony bites into me like acid. I scroll through the comments. What kind of daughter leaves her parents homeless? Family should always come first. Ungrateful. Selfish. An hour later, the phone calls begin. Aunt Patricia, who never showed up to any of my graduations. Pastor Wilson, who conveniently forgot the countless youth trips I couldn't afford because my paychecks went to my parents. Even Mrs. Kelly from down the street, who watched me trudge to night shifts while my brother revved past in his brand new truck. I silence the phone and open my laptop instead. Mortgage documents await my electronic signature. With one click, 20% of my life savings disappears from my account, the rest scheduled for transfer at closing. My silence becomes my armor over the next 2 weeks, while the social pressure mounts like a noose. Former classmates send curious messages. Distant relatives guilt me with biblical proverbs about duty and blood. My brother's wife, who's never once lifted a finger for me, posts cryptic status updates about traitors in the family. Through it all, I keep clicking, signing, transferring. My resolve hardens with every step. The day before closing, I request a personal day from work. my first in 18 months. I drive 3 towns over where anonymity shields me. In a dim coffee shop smelling of rain and roasted beans, I sit with a plain black coffee cooling beside me. My laptop glows with the final document Naomi has sent. Upon completion, ownership transfers to Juliette Marie Carter. I stare at my name. My finger hovers over the touchpad. Outside, spring rain drizzles against the glass, gentle and relentless. With one click, the house that carried my deepest wounds finally becomes mine. Not by manipulation, not by guilt, but through the same ethic of determination my grandfather had tried to instill in us all. Only I listened. I closed the laptop, sip my coffee. The bitterness tastes like something more. Justice. Served hot after 15 years on ice. The next day in Naomi's sunlit office, I sign the final documents. Each letter of my name feels like carving independence into the paper. 15 years of waiting and swallowing anger crystallized into one signature. Congratulations, Miss Carter, the bank representative says, his tone blandly official as he slides the folder toward Naomi. Naomi's eyes flicker with a quiet pride. She presses a small brass key into my palm. It's official. The house is yours. The key's weight grounds me. My throat tightens. A single tear betrays me, slipping onto my thumb where the brass catches the light. Sorry, I whisper, quickly brushing it away. Don't apologize. Naomi squeezes my shoulder. This isn't just a transaction for you. Oh, it's not. It's vindication. It's grief. It's every unspoken word I swallowed over the years. Oil and water swirling violently inside me, refusing to blend. The drive home is silent. The radio chatter about spring temperatures is jarringly normal, a soundtrack for the moment my world tilts on its axis. Meanwhile, across town the storm breaks. 6 missed calls from Dad, 3 from Mom, 2 from Grant. A text from Amber, my cousin, blinking on my screen. What did you do? Dad's calling everyone for emergency loans. A smile creeps across my lips, unbidden. Dad's pride bends only when money is on the line. Over the next 3 days, Amber feeds me updates. Their panic builds like floodwaters battering a dam. Grant, desperate, reaches out to names I recognize from police blotters. Mom escalates her campaign online, videos thick with mascara-stained tears and the rhetoric of betrayal. Her following grows, strangers rallying behind a story where I am cast as villain. Are you absolutely sure? Naomi asks when I stop by her office to finalize the rental agreement. Her pen hovers. Once we send this letter, there's no going back. I haven't gone back in 15 years, I say. Send it. The certified letter arrives on a Tuesday morning. Amber calls within the hour, whispering as though the walls themselves have ears. I dropped off groceries for your mom. The mail came. They read it at the kitchen table. She hesitates. Your mom just collapsed into a chair. Your dad went pale, hospital white. And Grant, he crushed the paper in his fist, then smoothed it out again like he was afraid to destroy it. I closed my eyes, imagining it. The oak table where verdicts against me had been rendered countless times now bore their reckoning. Amber, I whisper, my chest tight. What did the letter say? That you're their landlord now. Her breath catches. Julie, Is that true? Yes. Holy shit, she says, all lacing her voice. The following day I pull into the driveway of the house that is, without question, legally mine. Naomi's car waits, her professional calm a shield I'm grateful for. We step inside together, and this time it is my documents that spread across the dining table. The roles have reversed. The house no longer belongs to them. It belongs to me. They file into the dining room like reluctant students summoned to detention, their footsteps dragging against the hardwood floor. The air is heavy, tense enough to press on my chest. Mom's eyes are red-rimmed and swollen, her crumpled tissue gripped like a lifeline. Dad's shoulders sag beneath his faded polo shirt, as if gravity has doubled its hold on him. Grant plants himself in the doorway, arms crossed, jaw locked, his glare sharp enough to cut glass. Please, sit down, I say, gesturing toward the chairs across from me and Naomi. My tone is measured, almost cordial, but it leaves no room for negotiation. This is ridiculous, Dad sputters, his voice rising too quickly. You can't just. I can, I interrupt, calm but unwavering. And I already have. I slide the rental agreement across the table, the pages whispering against the wood. Fair market value is $1,800 a month. First month's rent plus security deposit, $3,600. Due upon signing. Mom lets out a strangled gasp. That's outrageous. It's standard, Naomi replies evenly, not bothering to look up from her notes. Her voice carries the cool authority of someone who has argued this 1,000 times. As is this cease and desist regarding the defamatory posts you've made online. She produces another document and places it neatly beside the rental agreement. Mom's mouth works soundlessly, opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. For once, the tears don't come on command. You have 24 hours to decide, I continue. My voice doesn't shake. Sign the agreement, or vacate within 30 days. You can't throw us out of our own home. Grant snaps, taking a step forward, fists curling at his sides. It's not your home anymore. I meet his gaze without flinching. It's mine. Dad's face flushes crimson, his hands trembling on the tabletop. We'll fight this, he growls, though the quiver in his voice betrays his fear. We'll get lawyers. You're welcome to try. Naomi slides her business card forward with clinical precision. Have them contact me directly. Their protests rain down in bursts, pleading, angry, disbelieving, but they bounce harmlessly off the invisible wall Naomi and I have built. Their outrage stutters, cracks, then crumbles into desperate bargaining before finally withering into silence as reality seeps in like a cold draft. But we're family, Dad finally whispers, his voice smaller than I have ever heard it. The trump card he's relied on my whole life, laid down once more. Only now I see it clearly. It's the weakest hand at the table. I look around the room, the worn floorboards my grandfather installed, the window where he once pointed out cardinals and blue jays to me, the door frame etched with my height year after year. This house is full of their history, yes, but also mine. Yes, I say softly. We are family. And this is what family accountability looks like. I rise to my feet, gathering my papers with deliberate precision. For 15 years they controlled every hand dealt. Now here in this room where I once surrendered my future with shaking hands, I reclaim it all. Not just the house but my voice. The following day I return to find the driveway crowded with vehicles. Aunt Patricia's silver Buick, Uncle Robert's battered pickup, even Pastor William's modest sedan. The sight makes my stomach tighten. Mom has rallied reinforcements. There she is, Grant announces as I step through the doorway, his voice dripping with false cheer, the theatrics of a game show host revealing the villain. 24 pairs of eyes swing toward me. The living room is packed, relatives forming a horseshoe of judgment, their faces hard and expectant. At the center sits an empty armchair, my designated seat for this ambush. Juliet, honey. Mom rushes forward, arms wide, voice pitched high with sugary desperation. Everyone just wanted to talk to you. I nod once, expression unreadable, keeping my handbag close. Inside rests the folder. 15 years of meticulously preserved evidence, every receipt, every contract, every broken promise. The weight of it grounds me. Pastor Williams rises slowly from his seat near the fireplace. Age has thinned his frame, but his voice still carries the booming resonance that once made 12-year-old me squirm through Sunday school lectures about obedience. "Juliet," he intones gravely, "we are concerned about the path you've chosen." He gestures to the wall newly decorated with family photos, carefully curated moments of togetherness. Christmas mornings, fishing trips with Grandpa, my graduation day. Not a single frame dares show the fracture that came after. "Honoring thy father and mother is not a suggestion," he continues. "It is a commandment." Aunt Patricia dabs at her eyes, voice trembling. "Your grandfather would be heartbroken to see the family torn apart over something as meaningless as money." The mention of my grandfather snaps something inside me. I draw the folder from my bag, my pulse steady. "Would you like to know what my grandfather actually wanted?" My voice is calm, cutting through the room's stale air. One by one, I spread the documents across the coffee table like cards in a game only I know how to play. Bank statements. Business ledgers. Loan applications with my inheritance listed as collateral. Receipts for the shiny truck Grant bought the same week Dad declared a business emergency. 15 years ago, I say, my grandfather left me $120,000 for my education. His will, I tapped the highlighted excerpt, made that clear. 3 days later, I signed it over to my father for a business that failed within 18 months. The room grows hushed, heavy with unease. Uncle Robert stares at the floor. Mom's breath hitches. While I worked 3 jobs to afford college, my parents renovated their kitchen. I lay down the Home Depot receipts. While I lived in a freezing studio apartment eating ramen, my brother bought himself a brand new truck. The financing agreement lands with a sharp slap. And I kept every piece of proof. I meet Pastor William's gaze. My grandfather taught me about responsibility, about consequences. I'm honoring him now, by making sure this family faces both. Mom's face crumples, the practiced tears finally real. "We made mistakes," she pleads. "But we're still your family." "Yes," I say, gathering the documents into a precise stack. "Which is why I'm giving you a choice." They follow me down the hall, shuffling like a reluctant funeral procession into Grandpa's study. The smell of old books and faint pipe tobacco lingers in the air. Behind the oak desk, my fingers trace the initials carved into its corner. W.C. Walter Carter. The man who believed in me when no one else did. "You can stay here as tenants," I declare, setting the rental agreement on the desk. "Or you can leave. Those are the only options. Fair market value. First and last month's rent due immediately." Dad's shoulders sag as he steps closer. "You'd make your own parents pay rent?" "Yes." The word lands between us like a gavel. Final. That evening, after the extended family disperses in a haze of whispers and pointed glares, we gather once more around the dining table, the same one where they ambushed me weeks before. This time, Naomi sits at my side, her steady presence a shield against the old patterns they once used to keep me silent. But I am no longer silent. Not the trembling girl who once signed away her future. Not the scapegoat they molded for their convenience. I am Juliet Carter, the landlord of their present and the author of my own future. Father signs first. His pen hovers in the air for a moment, trembling between hesitation and surrender, before finally touching the paper. The strokes are smaller than I remember, almost diminished, as if his once commanding presence has been reduced to a fragile echo. When he slides the page away, his hand lingers just long enough for me to recognize the quiet defeat settling in his bones. Mother follows. Her hand trembles so violently the ink scratches unevenly across the lines, carving her name in fractured loops. She does not look at me, not once. She stares at the table instead, eyes glassy, lips pressed thin, as though looking at me might remind her of what she can no longer control. Grant signs last. The pen creaks under the pressure of his grip, his knuckles white, jaw clenched. His name slashes across the page with fury instead of formality. He doesn't slide the paper toward Naomi so much as shove it, like the act itself was a wound. "Rent is due on the 1st of each month," I say evenly, my voice steady, professional, almost detached. "Late payments will incur a 10% penalty." I rise to my feet, signaling the end of the transaction. The deal is done. The terms are final. Over the next few days, the story spreads across Garner like spilled ink soaking through parchment. Mother's carefully cultivated narrative, her tragic tale of an ungrateful daughter abandoning her family, crumbles under the weight of facts. People whisper. They compare timelines, inheritances, missed graduations, and the 3 jobs that kept me afloat while they renovated their kitchen. Mrs. Peterson from next door stops me one afternoon as I inspect the exterior paint of the porch. Her eyes, once full of suspicion, now hold something softer, almost maternal. "I always wondered why you left so suddenly," she murmurs. "Your grandfather would be proud of you, Juliet. Standing on your own 2 feet like this." Father's business associates nod quietly when I pass them at Johnson's Hardware. No words exchanged, just a subtle acknowledgement that carries more weight than any defense my parents could muster. The narrative has shifted. I am no longer the selfish runaway, but a woman reclaiming what had been stolen. On Sunday at the grocery store, I overhear a stranger whisper to another, "That's Juliet Carter. She's the one who bought her family's house back when they couldn't keep it." For the first time in 15 years, my name carries power, not pity. The house is mine. The truth is known. And in my grandfather's study, surrounded by his scent still clinging faintly to the wood and the books, I finally feel at home. 6 months pass. The autumn sun gleams against the freshly painted porch, catching on the crisp white trim. Hydrangeas bloom where weeds once clawed at the earth, and the sagging steps now stand firm beneath my weight. What once was a liability, neglected and heavy with secrets, now pulses with quiet dignity again. I glance at my watch, precisely noon, before retrieving the leather-bound rent ledger from the passenger seat of my car. Punctuality matters now. Order matters. Legacy matters. Inside, I find Father polishing the old hallway table, his uniform pressed crisp for his afternoon shift at Johnson's Hardware. Inventory clerk at 65 is not the retirement he dreamed of, but it keeps the rent paid. He looks up when I step into the room, nodding once. "Juliet." His voice, once booming, now softened with a respect that once seemed impossible. Mother emerges from the kitchen, her pharmacy cashier badge still pinned to her blouse. She wipes flour from her hands, a faint smile flickering across her lips. "I made apple cobbler. Your grandfather's recipe." The mention of him, Walter Carter, pulls me like gravity into his study. The door creaks open to reveal 6 months of patient restoration. His fishing tackle gleams in glass display cases along walls painted his favorite shade of blue. His books, once buried in dust, now stand aligned like old soldiers, polished and preserved. Above the restored desk hangs a photograph I cherish, Grandpa guiding my 10-year-old hands as we cast a line at Lake Wheeler. His weathered palms steadying mine, his voice full of patience. I trace the carved initials on the desk, WC, as his words echo through my memory. "The numbers never lie, Juliet. Remember that." The dining room table, the very place where they ambushed me, now hosts monthly family dinners. Tonight is the 6th. Grant arrives late, his second job leaving exhaustion shadowed under his eyes. He hangs his jacket carefully, no longer tossing it carelessly for others to pick up. "Traffic," he mutters and takes his seat. We eat without tension. Plates are passed calmly. The old sharp edges of our conversations dulled into something resembling civility. When Mother mentions her tires need replacing, she doesn't follow it with hints about money. Instead, she asks if anyone knows of good brands. "Wilson's Auto has a special," I tell her, passing the green beans. 20% off if you mention Jefferson Middle School's fundraiser. She nods, making a note on her phone. "Thank you, Juliet." Her gratitude, small as it is, marks progress. Later I walk the rooms alone. My fingers graze the pencil marks on the doorframe, charting my growth through the years. In the kitchen I stand where Grandpa taught me to bake cornbread, whispering measurements in his deep voice. On the porch swing, twilight wraps around me as it creaks beneath my weight. Last week I established the Walter Carter Technical Scholarship Fund, designed for students whose families stripped away their futures like mine once did. 3 young women attended my first workshop on financial independence. Family legacy, I told them, is about values, not blood. About courage, not entitlement. The morning sun will find me here again, filtering through trees my grandfather planted with his bare hands. This house now represents both justice and mercy, a reckoning and a redemption. On his desk sits a quotation I discovered in his papers. "True inheritance isn't what you're given, but what you do with what was taken from you." I let those words sink into me as the swing rocks gently. A Across the neighborhood, windows flicker on, families gather, stories are shared. I wonder how many others face the same impossible choice between loyalty and self-respect. What would they fight to preserve? When does the price of family become too high to pay? For me, I already know the answer. And tonight, for the first time, I feel the reward of choosing myself.